Welcome to Extremely Valid Points.
We're three business owners and friends who enjoy talking about business, marketing, and creativity.
Along the way, we just might happen to make some extremely valid points.
So we'd love it if you would join us in today's conversation. Welcome back to our podcast. I am your co-host, Jenny Sala.
And I'm Nathan Sala.
And I'm Dave Wilkins.
And today we are finishing off a 4-part series all about lead funnels. And today we're talking about specifically lead nurturing. So if you missed the first 3 episodes, you'll want to go back and review those. The first episode, we talked about what a lead funnel is, why you need one, and, the ins and outs of having a good lead funnel. Then the next episode, we talked specifically about video and how to use video in lead funnels and leading your potential customer through the buying process. And then we talked about lead magnets in the 3rd episode. And Nathan told us all about how to create a great PDF to capture email addresses for potential new customers. And so today, building off of those last 3 episodes, we're going to talk about what to do once you've received all those email addresses of people who are interested in potentially doing business with you.
That sounds exciting because that is something I've always been curious to know about.
Well, this is like the goal, right? Like we want to get to this part where we're nurturing the relationships. We've already built, brought people through the funnel, right? So this is kind of that end reward part for us and for them.
Right. I mean, so you've already kind of done all the hard work, and now this is the opportunity to connect and build relationships with your potential clients and move them into a sale. So we've mentioned this before. There's kind of different stages in the buying process, and it's going to look different for every company and every business. Nathan mentioned sometimes people come to your website. About 3% of the people are absolutely ready to buy right on the spot. Those are, the golden tickets, the ones we love. For the rest of us who need a little bit of time before we make a major buying decision, often, when there's a major buying decision, the process is longer, but then the reward is greater. So for the rest of us, there's this process that we go through. And the first is exploring. This is, deciding whether or not we even really want this product or service, whether or not we want to buy this. And so we might be just introduced to the idea or just starting to think about it. And usually this process happens when they first come to your website. And so, the key to get great people in the exploring process is to have great content. We talked about that in episode 2. We talked about how to have great video content and furthermore, a great PDF. And so once we have captured their email, they're really already moved into the second stage of the funnel, which is the gathering stage. And so this is when people are starting to get more information. Again, based on whatever product you're selling, this is going to look different for your potential buyer. But this is when they're starting to think about the products that you're offering, the features of those products, selling points. They're researching price. They're comparing you to your competitors. And they're just learning and figuring out all the things they need to know. So, just for the sake of an example, let's pretend that we're building a funnel for a pool company. Okay, so I'm kind of interested in building a swimming pool. So I'm getting used to the idea of forking over a lot of money to put this big hole in my ground in the backyard full of water. It's a really exciting thing for me, but it's also a little bit of scary because, it's a big purchase, right? So what kinds of things would you guys want to know as you are researching and gathering information about buying a swimming pool?
How much does it cost? How long does it take to build? What's the process?
Yeah, I think we'd want to figure out, how do I know that I'm going to choose a reputable company? This is going to be long lasting. It's not, cutting corners.
If you're a pool builder, you get asked these questions every single time you talk to a customer. So, what's great about these lead nurturing emails is you can have this content do a lot of the work for you. So that you don't have to continually answer the what does a pool cost question. Having an email that says, want to know what a pool costs? Here's a breakdown of all the products and features and the price ranges. And, you walk people through it and then, follow it up with an email about how long does it take to build a pool? What is the process? What do I need to know? And then provide them with a video, a time-lapse video of a pool build, explaining all of the steps involved and everything that they can expect to happen.
I think you brought up a good point too. Like when you talk about putting your pricing out there or putting out the answers to a lot of repetitive questions that you're going to get frequently, right, by your audience. Mm-hmm. I think previously there might have been a mindset of, well, I don't want to put too much out there. I want to get them on the phone. I want to talk to them. I want to have that sales experience one-to-one, because then I can really kind of help guide them through, which makes sense to a certain degree. But I think in the marketplace today, having a lot of that content out there and answerable, if you're conscious about the way you deliver that, you can, and actually be transparent. You can say, obviously you can't probably dial in a specific number for the pool because there's a lot of variables, right? But you can give them ranges. This is going to fit in here, this is in here, and that's going to help you eliminate people who have, they want the world,
unrealistic
but they have unrealistic expectations. Sure.
Right.
Or, maybe they're shopping for a budget pool and you do high-end work, Mm-hmm. It's going to help eliminate some of the people that aren't going to be your best fit. It's going to answer those questions so that when they come to you, they're more prepared for what it's going to really be like. And, I think you basically having all those topics covered, you're better educating your customer and setting them up for to be able to meet their expectations.
Yeah. And I think what you're talking about is this overall global shift in the marketplace, the evolution of the buyer. They are researchers. The buyers are smart. They're educated. They're educating themselves. They're doing all this research online. And so they have all these questions. They want to get answers, and they want to make sure that they know all of the factors before they make the right decision.
Yeah.
And so I guess my question would be, would you want to put that information, you said to put it in an email, but wouldn't you want to put it on your website? Or talk a little bit about why you mentioned answering that question in an email.
That is a great question. So I would say to put it in both.
Okay.
And one of the reasons why is you want to, in your emails, again, you're always trying to continue engaging with your potential clients. And so giving them a way to interact and to stay in touch with you is really key. So if I send an email, subject line, how much does a pool really cost? And then, they open up the email and I say, that is such a great question. We get asked that all the time. We're not afraid to talk about price. Check out this link to our blog post on our website where we explain all about the ins and outs of what a pool costs. And then, also in that email, give them a link. Like, do you want a customized quote? Let's meet, let's talk, let's find out what your budget is, and let's find out what, features you want and how big you want it and how much space do you have to work with. Do you want a slide? Do you want a waterfall? Do you want a tanning ledge? There's so many things, right? And, but explaining that and being willing to talk about that often is enough to just get people to trust you. Like, they're not afraid to talk about their price, so they're probably reasonable people. And then again, on the website, when you have that blog post, you're going to see when people click on that email and when they click through to the blog post, then you've got them on your site. Then you've got more opportunity to continue to engage with them with more content, to get them to do your call to action, which is maybe schedule a consultation or something like that.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, yeah, I really love that because when it's on your website, then people can find it maybe via a search engine. So for SEO purposes, because a lot of times people, when they search for stuff, they ask questions to Google. So everything's in question format. And even more so nowadays with the personal robot devices in their homes, where they just say, Alexa or Siri or Google. I don't know what Google's called, but I think they have one too.
Isn't it Hey Google?
Yeah, something like that.
Hey Google, how much does a pool cost?
Right. So optimizing for that in the future, I think, is going to be a key SEO discussion that we'll have in a future podcast.
Absolutely. With some recommendations on books on the topic as well.
So the email is basically just a little preview of what's already on your website. Hey, here's a very frequently asked question. People want to know this. Why don't you check it out too? So you are kind of spoon feeding them stuff they're looking for. Yeah.
And I think, again, factoring in your specific product or service, your specific ideal clients' needs and the questions they ask, and then prioritizing them. What order are they going to ask them in? Creating that drip campaign that, logically puts those questions in order. And so then that would lead us to the next stage in the buying process, which is when they are going to make a decision, the deciding phase. So one thing to think about when people get into this specific phase of the buying process is, what is the difference between you and your competitors? And, if a client is shopping around and they're comparing, your proposal with the pool company down the street's proposal, what features and things that you do is going to sell them on choosing you? For some pool builders, it might be price. For some, it might be years of experience or, their unique ability to do custom designs. Sometimes it's, quality and price combined. But knowing what makes you different from your competitor and why somebody might want to choose you over them is really important, so that you can educate them on, hey, if you're just trying to make a decision, and here's some of the things you're exploring, here's why you might want to pick us over someone else, or here's what sets us apart, or you might not want to choose us if ABC. And I think it's really important to not be afraid to say that to people, not to be afraid to admit that you might not be the best choice for them, or there might be some other competitor out there that can meet their needs. Because, again, I don't think we need to worry about there not being enough market share in most situations. And also, you're not the perfect fit for everyone. And when you're willing to admit that, I think it helps so that you can make room for the people who are the good fit. Right.
Yeah. That's good. I think, being very transparent, being very true to who you are is always helpful to your customers and ultimately to you.
Absolutely.
So how direct should you be in your approaches or your appeals and your calls to action at this point?
That is a great question. And I think it's hard to diagnose with each specific person where they are in the buying process. There's certain indicators you can kind of keep an eye out for, like to see what kinds of things they're clicking on. If you're really watching those types of things, you can kind of diagnose and allow them sometimes to self-select what buying process they're in by what they're clicking on or within your email. So I think giving them a lot of options is a good way to see where they're at, and then feeding them more of what they're clicking on is a good way to do that. And if that's a little bit too intricate or like too much strategy, too much brain power for you, as a rule of thumb, I would just make, every 3 emails, value adds. Maybe the 4th email is the offer and the ask, So we're continuing to engage. I'm teaching you, I'm educating you, I'm preparing you for what it might be like to do business with me, and weeding out those who are going to go somewhere else. And then, sooner or later, I'm going to say, hey, I noticed that you downloaded that PDF from the website. Do you have any questions I might be able to answer for you? Would you like to schedule a time to talk? What are you ready to get an estimate and going for it and asking for the sale? We don't want to ask for the sale too much because we don't want people to feel like they're being sold to.
Right.
But sooner or later, people do expect you to ask for the sale, and sooner or later, they're going to want to take that step.
You know, something I've noticed recently trending, and I would love to see more research on this. Maybe you guys know a little bit more, but I've seen people being kind of putting the question out there like, hey, I saw that you did this. I saw you watched my video. I saw that you downloaded this, but you haven't bought anything yet, basically. You know, like almost like, what's it going to take for me to convince you? And it's almost like, I think there's a way to be transparent where you're asking for the sale. Mm-hmm. You're like, okay, look, I'm here to sell stuff, and they know that. But also there can be potentially a creepiness to like, I've been watching what you're doing. Right. And I want to push you over the edge, you know? So I think there's a way to do that where you're saying, hey, thanks for downloading our PDF. I hope you found it helpful, and we would love to further engage with you. Is there any feedback, or do you have any questions? How can I continue to provide you service, or how can I help you out? What can I do to help serve you? Right. Mm-hmm. And if their answer is, well, I would love to have more of this, we're like, great. Well, let's figure out what doing a project together might look like, or whatever. But I think you have to be a little bit careful about like, I've been watching all your moves. I've been tracking your online data here. You know,
I know you spent 30 minutes on our website.
Yeah, because we want to be careful, and obviously people are entrusting us with their private information. We want to be stewards of that, right?
Absolutely.
So we want to get to know them. Obviously, it's good to get to know who our customers we're engaging with are, what they're like, what their interests are like, so we can help serve them better. Not from a, I want to figure you out so I can get you to buy.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And it sort of alludes to the contrast between sales philosophies, where there's the sort of outdated sales philosophy, which is it's kind of like the desperate salesperson. I'm desperate. I need this sale. I work on commission, and I need to manipulate into buying. Mm-hmm. Versus the consultant or the guide who's like saying, hey, I'm an expert at your disposal. I can help you. I can answer your questions for you. Whatever you need, I'm here, you know. I don't need your business. I would love to work with you. You know, we'd be a great fit. But, you know, if this isn't right for you, you are free to leave this relationship at any time. And I just hope the best for you. You know, it's like
right.
One of them is, you know, you don't want to be in a relationship with that person. The other one is like, hey, you know, now that you're basically telling me I can go, I want to stay.
All right. So we have been moving our potential client down through our funnel. We've taken them through the exploring phase where they've gone to our website. They've downloaded a PDF. Now they're in the gathering phase. They've gotten more information. We're moving them into the deciding phase where we're getting into, starting to ask for the sale a little bit more and really getting more laser focused on the information that we're providing. And then the next phase is when they do decide, we want them to become a customer. And so once they become a customer, one thing to keep in mind is that for different people, this could take different periods of time. One person may only need a week to decide that you're the right fit for them and they're ready to make that purchase. Some people, it could take a year before they pull the trigger. Again, sometimes that depends on, the sales price of what you're selling and how big of a sale it is. Sometimes it's just a matter of a person waiting for, being a slow mover or slow decider. Really, the whole point of an email nurture campaign is to continue to stay top of mind with your potential client, recognizing that sooner or later, they're either going to opt themselves out or they're going to buy. And you just want to be there when they're ready to buy. You just want, when they get to the point where they're like, I'm ready to pull the trigger on this, I'm ready to build my pool, that you're still there in the conversation and they're still thinking about your company. Purchase reminders are a great way to seal a deal. Maybe somebody puts something in a cart and then leaves. You can shoot them an email. Hey, did you forget something in your cart? Or, again, a low ticket item that works good on, that wouldn't work so good on a higher ticket item. They probably didn't forget if they left it in the cart. Maybe they're thinking about it, and so you follow up a few hours later and say, hey, did you have any questions about that, armoire in your shopping cart? Or
right.
You guys can tell what I think about when I'm shopping online.
No, I'm thinking about, I keep getting messages from eBay. Hey, we have another camera for you. I've been looking at medium format film cameras and I haven't pulled the trigger on it, but they keep saying, hey, there's another one. What about this one? Did you forget about this?
Uh-huh.
And, I could see myself being annoyed, but I'm not really, because I just keep thinking like, okay, well, I'm not ready right now, but it reminds me that, oh yeah, I was looking at that. Maybe the right one will come along at the right time where I have a little extra cash and I'll pull the trigger. So that's the other thing too, right? You want to be, you're saying top of mind and you already have the customer somewhat educated of, well, what do I need to do? Once I'm ready, I want to have like no barriers to entry, right? Like they know, oh, I'll just click this email and click here and we're good to go.
Right. Yeah. So, and maybe they decide I'm definitely going to buy with them, but I'm waiting for my tax refund before I pull the trigger. And so that'll be in a few weeks or something like that. In the meantime, you don't want somebody to come in and change their mind about you and say, oh, here, look what we've done, look what we do, right. and have them forget about you. So it's really about staying in the top of mind. And like you said, I think that there's a fine line that you have to learn how to walk between being annoying and just being there.
Right.
And being welcome.
Yeah.
And having, those reminders be welcome. And I think some of it can be as simple as the word choices that you make.
Sure.
Which goes back to what Nathan was talking about last week, where we need good copy.
Yeah. And the source of the copy has to just come from somebody who understands this concept that you're not trying to get them to buy something. It's a complete different mindset. You're there to serve them and help them. And if you truly believe that what you offer is going to benefit people, serve them, make their lives better, help them out, then you would never, ever even think it's annoying. You would think of, I'm just going to present this person with opportunities until they're ready to make the smart move,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mindset. And I think a lot of business owners have a distaste for sales, and so they don't even do sales correctly. But it's just kind of unfortunate, because I just think the issue is that people don't really understand it. At least that was how it was for me. Like, I just didn't really have a good understanding of. I thought whenever I think of sales, I would think of the used car salesman or something like that.
Sure. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is difficult. A lot of times you get into your, if you're an entrepreneur or whatever, you're getting into it because you love what you do. You love building websites. You love filming video. You love
selling
financials, right?
Right.
Whatever it is. But when it comes to like talking about myself, oh, I hate that. I have to like brag on myself. I have to toot my own horn.
Right.
Well, again, it's not so much like even the cars. You don't necessarily have to say like, our cars are the best. Every other cars, they all stink, right? Basically, you are, if you put yourself in that serving mindset of like, what are you looking for? Do you need something for your family? Do you need that kind of a vehicle? Do you need this? What are you looking for? You want to feel sporty? Do you want to feel, like you're taking care of all your money and you're not being frivolous? And again, how can I serve you? And you'll never really go wrong that way, because you'll always be in that. You're putting, instead of thinking about the sale and me, how can you give me money? Mm-hmm. It's how can I serve you? Because if you're serving people, they will give you their business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that when you genuinely believe in your product and you really know that it will actually help someone and that, it will benefit them in some way, it's a lot easier to sell. When I was younger, young adult, I worked at Sears selling computers, and it was a very high pressure, you have them there, don't let them leave kind of thing that I just couldn't do it. I thought, well, if they're not ready to buy today, I don't want to pressure them into buying. And so I didn't think I was good at sales, but then when I sit down with a client and I learn all about their business and how passionate they are and what's special and unique about them and the problems that they're having, and I know I can help them, then it just becomes this really easy, simple transaction it's really more about relationship building. And like you said, it's about serving your client rather than focusing on yourself and your pocketbook. And that's, that is the nature of a nurture email campaign. It's building relationship. It's genuinely believing that you can help people navigate whatever it is, whether it's building a pool or building a website, making a movie, selling widgets.
Right.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How do you know? Okay, so say you have your, big stack of emails that you've written and you have them all ready to go out. And
like on a paper?
Yeah, they're on paper or they're in your email platform.
Okay.
How do you decide which order to send them out in? And how frequently do you send them out?
I would definitely say that there's some thought should go into that. There's some science into that. And some of that is going to be a little bit of trial and error. I know that Donald Miller says you should send out emails more often than you think. I think often we think, I don't want to bother them. But, for every 3 emails you send, they'll probably open 1. So you got to keep that in mind too. But definitely, setting up a drip campaign, I mentioned that earlier. A drip campaign is where you decide from the time I get somebody to download a PDF, I'm going to send this sequence of emails, and this first one will go out immediately, and then the next one will go out the next day. And the idea is to continue having that conversation and with them, and then, you can also set up certain triggers, like if they click on this email, then send this email next. And so that you can know, okay, and that's what I was talking about earlier, when you can kind of sometimes gauge where they are in the buying process and know when to move them into a new category. So you can have an email nurture campaign for the people in the gathering phase. You can have one for people in the deciding phase. You can have one for customers. You can have one for champions, which we're going to talk about next. And so you know who you're talking to, you know where they're at. You've already built this relationship, and and you can, with the right CRM, you can click on any email address and know how long they've been in your campaign, what emails they've clicked on, which ones they delete, and so you're able to get a lot of information based on that. And then really the idea is to just try and know where they're at and meet them where they're at.
I don't know if this is getting too specific, but are there any email platforms that you would recommend, and how important is it to have a system for managing all that, your email data?
Yeah, so there's a wide variety of email platforms ranging from free to very, very expensive. And you do get what you pay for. So, if you're just starting out, a free one may be the way to go, just while you're getting your toes wet and trying to figure out if it's right for you and, starting to write that content. Then there's some that are, there's all-inclusive types of packages where, like Kajabi, you can buy one product that is your website and your store and your email drip campaign. And there's so much data. For any data nerd, you would love it. HubSpot is another really, really wildly popular one, and also on the higher end of pricing. And again, it just, I think a lot of it depends on how big your campaign is, how many emails you've gathered, how many people you're trying to reach. But there's a wide variety to meet any needs. Nathan, do you have any other ones that you would recommend?
Yeah, it's interesting. We're actually actively searching. We keep trying different ones out. There's new ones that come up all the time. There's old ones that we used to use, and then they changed everything. So it's not as good of a deal. But I mean, we started out with MailChimp, and that was great because it was basically free for up to a couple
2,000 subscribers.
And it was pretty good. It had pretty sophisticated lead sequencing. But then we got a client where we had to design this sequence that was extremely complex. And it was basically just trying to, we realized that if, we segmented their market and we figured out if we assume that all of his clients are...
You're basically 3 types of buyers.
Yeah.
And you don't want to talk to...
If we spoke to buyer A the same way we spoke to buyer B, then buyer A would definitely get offended because they're not even in the same situation. And so we realized that we had to kind of figure it out without them telling us right away. We'll ask them, but if they don't tell us, if they opt in with just their email and just their name or something, then we can just kind of put them in a certain one. But once we know which category of buyer they're in, then we get them into a different funnel. And so we found that some of the platforms we were using didn't allow you to
segment as detailed.
Yeah, allow your users to jump to a different segment. Yeah. And then we were trying to do tagging, which we thought tagging was is so important to just the data, because what we like to do is track all the touch points. So and then all of the different buyer criteria we assign a tag to. So if they're a baby boomer, or if they're a millennial or Gen X, we assign that tag to them. Yeah. And we and then when we pull up their profile and click on their email in our CRM, we know, they're a millennial. Okay. Yeah. Or if they're if their income level, or a lot of their demographics information we can tag, but also watched video, or read PDF 1, read PDF 9, and then we can find patterns. So it's a lot of more data nerd stuff. Yeah. But we're still trying to find the perfect CRM that does it all. The CRM, email, and stuff like that. But a lot of times your CRM and your email thing, I think, have to be closely related.
If not one and the same.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That makes sense.
All right, so let's talk about the last phase of email nurturing, and that is, once you have converted that customer into, they become a customer, the next thing that you want is for them to become a champion for your brand. And this is, we talked a little bit about this last week about influencers and how important it is, and what a great tool that can be when you can get somebody else to recommend your brand, so you don't have to toot your own horn. And so if you can get a customer who has done business with you and they want to sing your praises, they are the best kind of client. First of all, a client, somebody who's already purchased from you, is an easier sell to upsell more products or more services than, somebody that you just met off the street. So they're already a warm lead, and it's a good idea to just keep talking to them. If they bought that dining set, well, hey, here's a matching sideboard, or with Dave and his camera, if after he buys that medium format camera, well, maybe he might need some accessories that go with it, a new
belt buckle.
I was going to say flash or lens, but
yeah, that too.
Do you put belt buckles on cameras?
You could strap it onto your belt.
I think they are missing a big market opportunity here.
So keeping in mind, to continue talking to people even after they've bought from you. And again, we can do that by selling more things to them. We can also do it by asking them for referrals, keeping them happy, giving them special offers, making them feel special, making them feel exclusive, appreciating them. It's so important. Yeah. So if you guys would like more resources on email nurturing and how to really move people down the sales funnel, go to our website, extremelyvalidpoints.com. Check out our show notes. We're going to put some books in there and give you some recommendations on further reading. And we can also throw in some links to some of the email providers that we mentioned as well. All right. Well, thank you for joining us on another episode of Extremely Valid Points. We hope you've enjoyed this last series. We really appreciate you. Thanks for spending your time with us.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for spending time with us at the Extremely Valid Points podcast. To learn more about this episode, see our show notes at extremelyvalidpoints.com. Be sure and subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you download your podcasts. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/extremelyvalid. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram at EVP_podcast. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time with some extremely valid points.